Today on Locked On Canadiens, is texting one of your players, "Are you up?" on the night of the draft the most out-of-pocket thing a general manager can do?
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1378 of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports us here on the show and ensures you do not miss an episode. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as @MaybeIt'sIan, and I am joined by my friend, the wonderful Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick. Laura, we're a day closer. We heard from Pascal Vincent today. Didn't learn too much. The Canadiens gave a PTO to a guy whose last name sounds like a language. Hockey is in the air, no?
Hockey is definitely in the air. You can sense it, like everybody's talking about it. You can sense it going on social media. You can sense it from the players' Instagrams. You can sense it from all the people that are constantly talking about who's on the ice and who isn't. Everyone is getting back into town. I don't think the Montreal Canadiens are set to report for physicals, but I have seen some activity on social media. They're definitely reporting to work at the very least, and I'm just so excited. I love this team so much. I am not caught up on the rebuild still, guys, but I can't wait. I have so many big feelings about this team.
Yeah, I don't mean to spoil it, but I think that team makes the playoffs, Laura. It should be pretty good. Yeah, look, it's very close. All the boys are starting to come back to town, and it's weird to start this with draft content, but that's just how the chips fell for the Montreal Canadiens in publishing their annual draft documentary, which is always incredible to watch and see how that whole machine operates. So we'll start there, and then we want to start talking about what we can expect this season, and we'll break down some of our worst case scenarios. And then we'll end on a positive note, and we'll go into our best case scenarios for this upcoming season. All right, let's get into the draft video. It starts with one of the most out-of-pocket things I think a general manager can do, which is to text. First of all, Ken Hughes using voice to text is very funny when he's not actually doing anything. He's just walking around. He could have easily just been texting it with his thumbs, but he does the dad thing of like talking into your phone to text all the time.
Is he a boomer yet? Is his age like boomer level?
No, but that's boomer behavior. So he's an honorary one in that moment.
Yes.
And he's texting Ivan Demidov, "Are you up?" Because he wants to get his opinion on the player the Canadiens selected in the second round, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Żurawski. I got there. We figured it out. That was interesting in that phone call looks like it took place, because then they ended up talking on the phone. That phone call looks like it took place on the night of the first night of the draft, before the Canadiens had made the move up to select Żurawski, but they kind of had a deal in place, or were discussing a deal with Carolina at that point. He asks Demidov, is he a good guy, good in the locker room, good work ethic? Demidov gives all the right answers to those questions. What are your thoughts on that, on reaching out to a player, a very young one, and asking him for his opinion on this player? I don't know how much it swayed things, but like, what do you think? What do you think the thought process was there?
I think it's to make the person feel like a member of the team and solidify in their mind that they're this is a family, right? Like you come into the fold, everybody has to belong. And I think, I don't think he's getting scouting opinions from Ivan Demidov as much as he's just trying to get a feel for whether this kid would fit in this dressing room and on this team, right? And Ivan Demidov would know that from playing with him or against him in the KHL. And I think it has two purposes, right? Like he pays scouts for that. He pays scouts for scouting. He's not using Ivan Demidov for scouting. He's trying to see if that guy would be a positive or negative addition to the roster and to the dressing room. And I firmly believe that the team chemistry thing has, because it was so strong at the end of last season, that's now become one of the priorities for the Canadiens.
Yeah, and it goes back to what, we had been talking about with the Canadiens wanting the young players on this team to take ownership of the team. That kind of helps, right? Like, your opinion is being taken into account, even if even if in the reality of it is Kent Hughes already had his mind made up, it's not like they were like, Ivan, we're on the clock. What do you want us to do? Like, that's not what happened here. They in that video, a lot of them kind of confirmed what reporting had come out and what the Canadiens had said, I think post draft, which was that they had him at the top of their list. Drowski was their guy. So they probably would have taken him with 16 or 17 had they been at that spot. So it's very interesting that, you know, it all worked out for them. They got to take that guy later on in the draft. Bobroff at some point calls their questions in their interviews quote unique. And I'm remembering how was it David Reinbacher? He asked about like your teammates are falling off a boat in the middle of a war. I can't remember the exact scenario.
Yeah, it was a war question.
Yeah, I feel like the Canadiens take some level of pride in having the weirdest questions at these things. No,
I also like how he called it unique, where it like literally like they probably were like, what's the weirdest combination of words we can put together, and then they're proud of that, right? Like,
yeah,
and I'll be really disappointed if they make Chat GPT do it for them, because they've been being weird without Chat GPT, and I really think that, you know, they maybe they all sit around the table and then everyone says a word and then they take all the words and put them together and then make that a
yeah,
question.
yeah. And Martin Lapointe pointed out that this year the draft, the quality of talent was lower than in most years. However, he felt that the level of interviews were higher. That, you know, it was probably a lot of players jockeying for position to try to, you know, impress these teams. Speaking of those interviews, Hayden Papanicus sounded like he was sick in the middle of that interview. Like, he just sounded stuffed. He sounded so low energy. I hope, and clearly it didn't change the Canadiens' perspective on him. He answered the questions well, but he did sound like he sounded like he had the flu. I don't know why I put that down in my notes, but that was one of the things that I recognized, was that he seemed very ill as that was happening.
You're getting back into game shape.
Yeah, for sure. He's ready for the, you know, the flu season. The Canadiens staff, when they were asked about it, they seemed to think that they liked the decentralized draft. They liked the aspect of picking from the Canadiens locker room. I think it was Chris Boucher who said it made it more like you're surrounded
Yeah.
by the place where these guys are going to go to work one day. Like, it means a lot. What are your thoughts there? Is that level of is that worth it? Is that worth all of what we had to witness in those 2 days of the draft?
It was a terrible viewing experience, but I also think that teams just like it because it's like it's lower costs, right? You don't have to like send your people all to one city. I get why teams like it. You're also like in your home base, so like all those videos that you've been prepping, all that kind of stuff, you can just run down and you know, find it. I just feel like it's such a terrible viewing experience that they're
Yeah.
not going to get away with having it too much as they want it.
Yeah, they have to clean it up. The second day of the draft cannot be an all-day event. It can't be 6 hours. Like, you have
No.
to, you have 3 hours. Honestly, that's as much as you have. Shorten it.
You
They
gotta
need to
like
find a
also
way to
stop
shorten
with that awkward stuff. It's just so awkward. Like
it. Yeah.
they got to figure out something to do. I know they're gonna bring it back eventually to everybody in a
Yeah.
centralized, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Stop
this is
bringing
not.
celebrities to do the picks. They take forever. Nobody really likes it. Like, it's not worth doing. Just
Yeah.
make the picks. I'm kind of over it. Nick Bobroff has a habit of saying very wild things in these videos, and I can only imagine what he says when he's not on camera. Because in the past, you know, he called Florian Xhekaj the unicorn, which we all kind of laughed about at the time and scoffed at it. Turns out there might be some level of truth to that. That player profile is pretty unique. In
The
this
truth
one,
is in the middle.
right? Exactly. We live in a spectrum of extremes.
Yes.
The This one, he says he's big on Bryce Pickford, the defenseman they took later on in the draft, because, and this is a quote, the guy fights, he works out 24/7, he's got a bomb, he wants to be a player, and he needs to be and he needs to be taught how to defend. That player profile makes my skin crawl. That's a third round pick. I hated that a lot.
Why are you picking a defenseman who needs to learn how to defend?
Yeah, I mean, they all do to a certain extent, but the rest, there's usually more in the player profile that allows you to make that reach, right? Not
Yes.
even reach. You know, I don't know that necessarily he was a reach at that pick, but like that is like starting it with he fights, you lost me immediately, Nick. Like that's something you cannot be like, this is why we picked this player. Showing the removal of Heineman's Stahl name tag was a bit much as they announced the Dobson trade. I did not love that. It made me sad all over again that we won't get to watch Emil Heineman.
They did that for the video. They definitely did that for the video.
Yeah, for sure. 2 more points from me here. LJ Mooney sounded so excited to be Montreal Canadian, and I'm very excited for him to be one as well. So hopefully he pans out. And the last one, when they pick Jurovsky, Kent Hughes, he says that he wants to call Danny Millions, who's Dan Milstein, his agent, and an agent to a lot of Russian players. So adding Danny Millions to the hockey lexicon, A+ from Kent Hughes in that one. He also ribbed on Jeff Gorton at one point for not having long distance calling on his office phone. Like it was the ribbing that goes on between these guys is incredible. Kent Hughes is very funny.
I know, it's very, I love their dynamic, but also like, does Jeff Gorton not know what his job is?
Yeah, I know. It like didn't work, and he's like, you don't have. Oh man, I got long distance on my phone. And Jeff Gorton was like, I have long distance on this. Like it was very funny. Like they were just, you could tell they were kind of sick of being around each other, and Kent Hughes very much leaned into that.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed this one. That Bryce Pickford quote gives me pause, but the rest of it I had a great time with.
I have one thing. If Dan Milstein's nickname is Danny Millions, what is Alan Walsh's nickname?
Ali Walls? Like I have no idea. Like I imagine they have nicknames for all of them. They have to.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave the draft video there. When we come back, we're going to start scenario planning for the Montreal Canadiens this year. We'll start with the negative, the worst case scenario for this year's Montreal Canadiens, and we'll get into all of that in just a moment on Locked On Canadiens. The NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Look, I've talked about this before. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to play. I love player props. I love building very, very fun, low-stakes parlays or jumping in live as the action unfolds. Everything is available in that app. I can jump around. I can follow the stats for my fantasy team. It's a big part of my Sunday viewing experience when it comes to the National Football League. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to those Sundays. So, you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we're back. We're starting in the bad place. We'll call it that. This is the Twilight Zone Canadiens. We're talking if the Canadiens are catastrophically bad this year, why does it happen? And I want to start. I'll throw it over to you to get us started. But the one thing I do want to say, we're not going to say injuries because that's obvious, and it's obvious for everyone that like, oh, if X player gets hurt, they're going to be bad. Yeah, man, players are important. Professional hockey players are pretty hard to replace, come to think of it. So we're not going to say that. These are situational, and these are, just things that can happen that don't involve injury. So Laura, what comes to mind to you when you think, oh, the Canadiens had a bad season? What happened?
Okay, so here's the thing though. Like when we say worst case scenario, like if the Canadiens are catastrophically bad, there's still a lottery pick involved, right?
Yeah, I assume.
Okay. Because for me, the worst case scenario is finishing just outside the playoffs, but not high enough to get a good pick, and then doing that for the next 5 years. I mean that
Detroit Red Winging it.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
That to me is catastrophically bad. Now, if we want to talk about, let's say the Canadiens just had a really bad season, I think one of the biggest things would be that people were right, and a lot of these players are overhyped. Lane Hutson's overhyped. Ivan Demidov is a bust. Juraj Slafkovsky is a bust. I think it comes down to ability not being as advertised, not coming as advertised. I also think that I would say like lack of penalty killing will sink them. And it would be a situation where like they lose a bunch of games by 1 goal, and that goal came on the penalty kill.
Yeah. Right? I think the holes in the lineup are a big concern. Obviously, the second line center role, they might have it fixed with who's already here. Maybe Kirby Dach is the guy. I'll get into that in the third segment. Maybe Alex Newhook figures that out. But if at the end of the year we're talking about the Canadiens having a bad time, it was probably because they had a hard time filling that role again, and the expectations were higher. It's not like they had that problem fixed last year. They didn't. And, they were still able to have a very positive season because the rest of the roster performed to a level that maybe we didn't expect them to. And, the expectations were low. Like there was we didn't expect the playoffs. We were talking about a lottery pick before the season started. So for me, that's a big part of this. I think when you say like that these players are overhyped, for me, it's not that they would be overhyped and that's why they would have a bad season. It's just regression. Coming in and having like the rookie season that Lane Hudson did is one thing. Can he do it again? I'm never going to bet against that guy, but the sophomore slump comes for us all. Right? Like that's something that is a big deal. It's something that they're going to have to figure out how to manage. Lane Hudson's going to have to figure out how to manage more people knowing him and understanding how he plays. So for me, like the second biggest, red flag would be regression from a lot of their key players.
And it will come. I mean, this is the thing. A lot of them perform, right? But like, what level of regression are we talking, right? Like Lane Hudson gets like 55 points this year. You know what I mean? Like Cole Caulfield scores 32 goals instead of 37. That's still pretty good, right? Like Nick Suzuki
goes to 79 points instead of 89. Like,
there you go.
If those are the levels of regression, you're hoping that the infusion of a talent like Demidov or Bolduc or Dobson can sort of pick up the slack there. Or also incredibly true. A healthy line A fixes a lot of those early season problems, which is where the Canadiens struggled most.
Yes.
So completely agree with all of those. Do you have any on the defensive side? We talk a lot about the forwards. Anything on the blue line that kind of gives you pause?
Yes, a little bit. I have figured out where the offense is going to come from on that D. We haven't really figured out where the defense is coming from on that D.
Yeah. Alex Carrier, get ready to speak 30 minutes a night. Like that's it.
Yeah. I mean, like you've got a guy like Caden Gooley, right? You've got a guy like Jaden Struble. You've got a guy like Arbor Xhekaj, and you've got a guy like Alex Carrier, right? Like those are the defensive defensemen, right? I still don't get how it comes together. I'm not picturing it in my mind. And we do have a mailbag question about it coming up for later this week. One of our listeners sent in about defense and defensive pairings and the chemistry and all of that, which reminds us, please send us mailbag questions because our next episode is our mailbag episode. But right, so like for me, like the defensive question like really is how is it going to come together? Like how are they going to construct this defense? And also, I don't want there to be a sideshow, right? Like a sideshow of like people jostling for positioning. And I know that means like, mostly Jaden Struble and Arbor Xhekaj or whatever. A sideshow where like Mike Matheson has now said that, he would like to stay, right? We don't think that's in the cards, but like, does that become another sideshow, right? Does that like Noah Dobson, right? If his defensive ability does not improve and his offense doesn't put up the same numbers, like, does that become a circus, right? All of that kind of stuff. And with Lane Hudson, honestly, like I'm betting on him regressing. I'm betting on the sophomore slump. But what I did do is for the Reddit money on the board, I said I was going to, I pledged $5 per Lane Hudson points. Lane Hudson point. So I will be out a lot of money, if he proves me wrong. I think it'll be a minor regression. If anything, like he's not going to break the record every year, just some years.
I got to get in on that money on the board. I got to do something with Patty. I think that's what every line A goal, I'll figure out something. I think that's look on defense. You nailed a lot of the ones I thought of as well. Dobson being more of a liability defensively than we expected. He's going to be expected to play top 6 minutes. That means offensive zone and defensive zone. He's going to need to figure those out. I see a scenario where they go into the season and neither Struble nor Xhekaj grab that last spot. And we're sort of just wondering what happens now. And it maybe an Engstrom comes in and makes a lot of noise and has a little bit longer of a runway, considering he's going to be in that rookie showcase, or what do they call them? The prospect showdown. They change the name of it every year. Maybe just choose a name and stick with it. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's brutal. Those are sort of mine. I think key to all of that, though, I think, is the holes in the roster are more insurmountable than we had thought. And we're looking at the penalty kill going, they have to figure out a way to not give up a power play goal every game.
Yes.
Like last
Or
year, they
more
were
than
quite
one.
good on the penalty kill. Like they can't afford to take that step back.
Yeah. And there's a lot of guys that aren't there anymore that were very key on that penalty kill, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of my, like, I think that's one of my biggest concerns is losing every game by one goal, and that goal was a power play goal for the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's Bob Gainey's line? If you lose by a goal, you were 2 away from winning. That's sort of where that would put the Canadiens. All right. We'll leave the negative thoughts there. And we come back. We're thinking blue sky, rose-colored glasses, how the Canadiens have a great season and the scenarios that create that. And we'll get into all of that in just a second on Locked On Canadiens. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've ever put off organizing your finances, Monarch's for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, so you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally, feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. If you can't identify, that the charges that are hitting your accounts, Monarch Money is very easy at finding those things, finding the things that you're spending money on. For me, it's always takeout. I get nabbed on those takeout charges that I don't necessarily see. They make it easier for me to see that. They also help you notice inefficient investments, allocations, and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL. All right. Rounding out the show here, we're ending on a good note. So I hope you stuck around. If you're still here, go put in the comments what your worst case and best case scenarios are for this upcoming season. Maybe we'll do an addendum to this and talk about what you guys are feeling. So let us know what you think. All right, let's do best case scenario. I think there's a tap-in one here for me. It's the easiest one I can think of. And it's that Kirby Dach is that guy. If Kirby Dach is that guy, so many of the Canadiens' problems are fixed. They have that 2C. They have a player who can play with Demidov. They might be able to use Suzuki more on the penalty kill because they won't have to use him as much at 5-on-5. They'd still like to, but if they have to use him on the penalty kill, now they have the opportunity to, because, hey, look, that second line can eat a bunch of minutes too. I think since he got here, Kirby Dach has been a pivotal figure for this team. And it's a contract year. He has to figure this out because the Canadiens need to decide if it's time to invest in this player or cut bait. So are you putting as much on the Kirby Dach season as I am? I know a lot of fans are. Is that for you the pivotal sort of scenario for Montreal?
I feel like we're in September 2024.
Yeah, it's really we're just remixing it, honestly.
We did have some eggs in the Patrick Laine basket, but we feel a little bit more optimistic about him this year. Yeah, I think best case scenario is honestly Kirby Dach is the solution, and then we don't have to have the trade speculation all the time. As much as it would be nice to go after players like Mason McTavish, they do not grow on trees. They are not easy to get. And as much as I love to talk about Sidney Crosby coming to Montreal, that's going to be a huge, hefty price to pay. The Montreal Canadiens are not going to mortgage their future on the former best player in the world, even if it is a superstar like Sidney Crosby, who does not decline with age and looks better with age as well, I might say. I think if they solve that, if they have a viable second line center, a lot of the circus doesn't follow this team around, and they can continue to be that tight-knit group that loves playing together, that plays for each other. I think another one too is Ivan Demidov puts up a Calder worthy season. I don't necessarily think everybody thinks that he's he's gonna be a finalist for the Calder. That's not a given. There's so many talented players in this league, and it's the probability does not dictate that he's going to even be a contender. But if he's in that conversation, to me, like if he puts up a season that we're all taking notice, just like Wayne Hudson did, I think that's like, it's incredible. Like what a boost that's going to provide for this team's numbers.
Yeah. And I like how you couched that as the best case scenario, right? Is, him coming in, winning the Calder, being a significant part of the Canadiens offense. Because there is a world where he comes in and he's a 35, 40-point player. And we're, maybe not disappointed in this season, but it certainly isn't the expectations we saw after watching him get 2 points in his first period in the NHL against the Chicago Blackhawks. So I do love how we're, even with that, this is our best case scenario, we are kind of tempering the expectation and being like, look, that's the high end for this player this year, and that should be enough, right? That's an incredible thing. Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's not going to reach his potential if he doesn't immediately make that much of an impact in year one.
Yeah, totally. For me, I have a couple more at forward. Alex Newhook. If Alex Newhook somehow becomes new Christian Dvorak, we are laughing. We're having an incredible time this year. Now, I say that's best case scenario because I don't think that is within the realm of the range of potential outcomes, which is a phrase that I like to use from time to time. It's within that range, but it's not the favorite option. It is that's going to be a lift for him, and it really is going to come down to how well he can win faceoffs and if he can transition to being a penalty killer. He could solve two big problems for the Canadiens if he hits the way Montreal might be hoping he does.
I think so too. For him, the conversation that the feeling that I always have about him is that he's definitely a Montreal Canadien, right? Like he's definitely a guy who is a Montreal Canadien. But when I try to think about where he fits into the puzzle, I always feel like I'm not finding it.
Yes. That's I took a lot of flack back in the day when I was on my other show, The Build. When they made that trade, I was not in love with the price that they paid because I wasn't sure he was going to be a center. And lo and behold, we are a few years after that. And I like the player. I like the tool set. I like the attitude. I love the energy he plays with. I don't love the fact that I can't figure out what he is. And I think the Canadiens putting him in a role and just being like, figure it out, he might do it. The fact that, they had to throw him at center the last few seasons because of an injury. He didn't have a chance to prepare for that. If they go into the season being like, look, you're going to be the center on the third line, you're going to penalty kill, you're going to figure it out. I think Alex Newhook can do it, but can do it and will do it those are different things. So I'm very excited. That is a storyline that I think a lot of people are talking about potentially as a second line center option. I'm less bullish on that. I think if he can hit as your third line center, and again, on top of Doc hitting as your second line center, because he's pivotal. If Doc can't hit as a second line center, well, say hello to second line center Alex Newhook. That's how we get that again. So again, all of this to me is pivotal with Kirby Doc figuring this out.
And I think independent of Kirby Doc figuring this out, they can't rely on Alex Newhook as a second line. They can't. That's not the future of the Montreal Canadiens. So they need to have that question solved. And I know the answer. It's Kirby Doc or a guy they trade for, right?
Yep.
That's the answer. The answer is not Alex Newhook. And I love Alex Newhook. I love a lot of things about him. I just think that he's not that guy. And it's totally fine. The Canadiens just need to figure out where they meant to put him. Why did they get him in the first place? They need to explain that to us by using him correctly. Right?
Yes.
That's the way you justify that.
I feel like me from a few years ago has been vindicated. Not in that, haha, Alex Newhook hasn't figured it out. I don't love that. That's not what I'm talking about. It's that they paid a first and a second for this guy, and we're still not really sure what he is. I'll quote what I think you should leave. What is it that Chunky does? You had all summer to think about it. What does Chunky do? That's what we need to figure out with Alex Newhook. I've been on that point with him for a while. I think it's time for him to also get that figured out the same way Kirby Doc has. And if they both figure that out, we're laughing. We're having a great season. We're laughing our way. We're comfortably a playoff team. That is best case scenario for
Yeah,
Montreal
yeah.
this year.
And it's exciting because if they do make the playoffs again, there's so much more they're going to learn. And especially like if they run up against a tough team again, or maybe they run up against a team that's really, really highly skilled. Because I don't think that Washington team was highly skilled. I think that Washington team was not a great matchup for them. And they were physically like dominating the Canadiens, especially in that first game. And then they kind of figured things out. But I want that other lesson too. Like, what do you do when you run against a really highly offensively skilled team? How do
Yep.
you counter that? I would
Yep.
love for them to win a round, 2 rounds, give us something to be excited about, but I really want them to learn that. Like I want them
Yeah.
to go back to school in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, those were ours. We're just two people. What are yours? Put them in the comments. Sound off. Let us know what you think. Are we way off? Are we on? Are we putting way too much pressure on Kirby Doc, or are we somehow not putting enough pressure on that 6'4" center who should be a center? Let us know. You can also write to us, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Like Laura mentioned, we have a mailbag episode coming up tomorrow. So send in your mailbag questions. We like to get to as many of them as possible. We try not to turn any away. So send them in. They can be about anything. We do our best to keep things fun. So send them in, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Locked On Canadiens just about everywhere else we're posting things. Bluesky, Instagram, and TikTok. We have DMs on those as well if those are your platforms of choice. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day here at Locked On Canadiens. For your second listen, go check out Locked On NHL. This week they have a show about us. They Locked On Sharks. JD, he joined actually to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. So thanks for that, JD. We appreciate you being an honorary host of Locked On Canadiens for us. So go check it out. It was a great episode. I enjoyed what they had to say about our team because they made us sound good. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow me at Maybe It's Ian. You can follow Laura at The Active Stick. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.